Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a fascinating stack of sources here provided by you, our listener, and they all seem to point towards one central figure. The incredibly prolific songwriter, Paul Robert Thomas.
That's right. And the creative universe he shares with his collaborators. It's quite something.
So our mission with this deep dive really is to go beyond just, listing facts. We want to dig into these sources, pull out the core insights.
Yeah, understand his creative process, how he manages such a huge output, and what makes his projects, especially that main musical collaboration, tick.
And when we say huge output, I mean, the sheer volume mentioned in these sources is kind of surprising, isn't it?
It really is. The volume, the range of subjects, and some really unique projects in there, too. Details we'll definitely get into.
It feels like charting a map of this, incredibly busy and varied creative world.
Exactly. So where should we start? The core collaboration seems like the place.
Right. Les Pauls, also known as the Pauls. The material makes it pretty clear. Paul Robert Thomas's main role is lyricist. He writes the words.
Sets the stage, yeah. And his main partner, his partner in crime, you could say, in Les Pauls, is Paul Odiase.
And the sources describe him with quite a list of skills.
Oh, yeah. Multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, composer, actor, mixer, and masterer. That's a lot of hats to wear.
Definitely. And together they form this really significant and, like we said, incredibly prolific duo.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little detail in the sources. They share a background as ex-London boys.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And the scale of their work together. That's one of the first things that just leaps out, isn't it?
It really does. The material mentions over 16 albums released as Les Pauls. 16.
And just looking at their Bandcamp page alone, we found 57 releases listed there.
57. Just on one platform. That volume. It tells you something significant is happening, creatively speaking.
For sure. And their music, it comes out through Swiss Cottage Records, often working with UL Sounds, based in Studio City in the U.S.
That's the setup described. And the division of labor seems really clear across the sources. Paul Robert Thomas, lyrics. Paul Odiase, music.
Composition, performance, mixing, mastering. Odiase handles all of that side.
Right. It seems like a very defined, long-running partnership dynamic.
Okay, so let's get into the projects, because this is where it gets, really interesting, I think. The sources highlight some major ones. First up, the Chelsea Hotel series.
Ah, yes, this one stood out. An extensive triple album project, all focused on the iconic New York Chelsea Hotel.
And the concept, as the material states it, is original songs about famous artists who stayed there or, had strong connections to the place.
It's a brilliant concept, really, using that one history-soaked location to explore all these different artistic lives.
So the sources detail the first album, the Chelsea Hotel, #1. And get this, it's listed as their 21st album together.
21st, wow, okay. And it features songs about, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, Bowie, Brian Jones, Jim Morrison, Andy Warhol, Lou Reed. Quite the lineup.
A Mount Rushmore of cool, basically. Its release date was August 31st, 2024.
And the material notes some real chart success, too, shortly after release. #1 in Tokyo's alt-pop charts.
Yeah, #3 overall in Japan on Reverb Nation. That's pretty impressive reach.
Definitely. We also saw some listener feedback mentioned in the sources, people describing the sound, classic rock, Bowie-esque, soulful, bluesy.
It's really connecting with the whole concept, the storytelling in the lyrics.
Exactly. There was even a specific line highlighted from the Brian Jones song, white boys playing black boys blues.
That's a line that definitely makes you stop and think, doesn't it? About influences cultural appropriation, shows the lyrics aren't shying away from complex stuff.
For sure. And interestingly, Paul Robert Thomas actually went to the Chelsea Hotel himself, visited on June 1st, 2025, so after that first album was out.
Oh, really? And the sources include his own observations from the trip.
They do. He noted, apparently, how much it's changed. Massive renovations.
So not much of the old vibe left.
Seems like it. He observed that not much original seems to be there. Maybe some furniture and paintings that someone called Stanley apparently took as payment back in the day, and they're now part of the decor.
Right.
And he also mentioned the lift, the famous one where Leonard Cohen supposedly met Janis Joplin. That's been replaced.
Wow. So that visit must have given him a pretty stark perspective.
It sounds like it. He contrasted the area right around the Chelsea with staying in what he called tidy Manhattan at the New York Palace Hotel where, current big stars might stay.
And what was the contrast near the Chelsea?
He specifically noted seeing, and these are his words from the source, emancipated drug addicts near the subway entrance there. A real difference from the, suited types you might see elsewhere in Midtown.
That's quite an observation.
Yeah. But despite all the changes in the surrounding scene, he found the hotel itself was fully booked. And the desk clerk was apparently friendly, knew the history, seemed proud to share the stories. So the legend of the Chelsea seems to persist, even if the buildings change.
The narrative lives on. Okay, so continuing the series, the Chelsea Hotel, #2, that's listed as their 24th album.
Right, 24th. Released March 7th, 2025. And this one covers artists like Joni Mitchell, Robbie Robertson, Patti Smith, Madonna, Joan Baez, Iggy Pop, Edie Sedgwick, and the Club 27.
Expanding the roster. And then there's the Chelsea Hotel, #3. The sources say this one is actually forthcoming. Release date December 31st, 2025.
Yeah, forthcoming. And it's listed as their 23rd album.
Wait, 23rd. So they released number 24 before number 23.
Apparently so. Adds a little quirk to their release strategy, doesn't it?
It does. Okay, and who's featured on number 3?
This volume includes Dennis Hopper, Bette Davis, Dylan Thomas, Thomas Wolfe, and this intriguing figure just called Fifth Floor Mary.
Fifth Floor Mary. Lots to unpack there, potentially. So it's a concept that's both a tribute and this exploration of a place across 3 volumes, covering a huge range of icons.
Exactly. Now, another major series we found details on is the Scared of America series.
Right. The sources mention Volume 1, then An American Landscape, Scared of America Volume 2, and Volume 3 that's apparently forthcoming.
And the stated concept for this one is quite direct. It's about depicting how America appears to, quote, 2 Brits across the pond who have never been there.
Okay, an outsider's perspective.
Yes, and the material explicitly adds that it's not intended to be anti-American. More about that external view.
Gotcha. And did we see any song titles that give a flavor of this?
We did. Titles like Marilyn Monroe's Endless Night, Robert Johnson Crossroads Blues, the title track single Scared of America, Las Vegas Killed Elvis, Washington's Blues, Hollywood Town, New York City.
So yeah, using those iconic American figures, places, myths to build that picture.
Seems like it. The material also notes a video promo for the An American Landscape album was titled Sensational and Controversial.
Okay.
And it specifically mentions that a video promo for the song The Undertaker's Ball from this same series was inspired by Pizzagate.
Right. And just to be absolutely clear for everyone listening, we're reporting directly what the source material states here, that the promo drew inspiration from Pizzagate. Which, as you may know, refers to a controversial and widely debated conspiracy theory from 2016. Our job here is just to convey what's in the sources provided to us.
Absolutely. Neutral reporting is key. Okay, moving to another really fascinating project mentioned, Dylan Found.
This one sounded unique. A joint project with Untold Dylan and the bob-dylan.org.uk site.
Exactly. And the goal here is pretty cool. Taking Bob Dylan lyrics that have never actually been set to music and composing new music for them.
Wow.
And apparently Paul Robert Thomas has also completed some unfinished Dylan lyrics as part of this.
That's ambitious. And the plan is to make the album available as a free download.
That's what the sources state, yeah. Which is an interesting approach in itself.
And this project seems deeply connected to Paul Robert Thomas's own history, right? With Dylan's work.
It does. The sources note he was apparently known back in the day as Dave Thomas from Wembley and was, really active in trading Dylan videos.
A real fan from way back.
Seems so. And he's also written a lot about Dylan's work. Articles mentioned on specific songs like Every Grain of Sand, Caribbean Wind, The Basement Tapes, 7 Days.
So that long-standing engagement, that deep knowledge, must give him a pretty particular insight when approaching lyrics Dylan himself never finished or set to music.
You'd have to think so. Now, stepping beyond the Les Paul's work for a moment, the sources do highlight other key collaborations for Paul Robert Thomas.
Right, not just with Paul Odiase. Who else is mentioned?
We see collaborations noted with Michael Kelly from Nashville and Angela Prudhomme, for example.
Angela Prudhomme. Wasn't there a specific success story mentioned there?
Yes, exactly. Their song, Christmas Time With You, lyrics by Thomas, music by Prudhomme. The material notes this song actually opened the Hallmark TV channel's 2018 Christmas movie, Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane.
The Hallmark channel.
Yeah.
That's a big deal in the world of music licensing.
It really is. And this points to that whole side of his work. The sources state many of his licensed songs have been used in TV, film, ads, radio, especially in the U.S. That's a major route for songwriters today.
Absolutely. Getting your music placed like that. Any other collaborators listed?
Yeah, Luke Jackson, who he's reportedly worked with since Luke was just 11 years old.
Wow, starting young.
Seems like it. Also, Tony Rees in Bloom, who is Tala Babitsky, Gitavio, and Darwin and the Electric Rebels. It suggests a real flexibility in his lyric writing, you know, working across different styles.
Definitely points to that. And there's a list of other notable albums and projects, too, beyond those main series we discussed.
Right. The Belief album is mentioned, described as including songs Paul Robert Thomas co-wrote for Sir Cliff Richard.
Sir Cliff.
Yeah, with other international artists involved too. Song titles like We Were the Young Ones, apparently inspired by Cliff's own hit, and Show Me the Way, were part of that project.
Interesting connection. What else?
We saw Rise Up, listed as their 19th album, songs like I Am Who I Am and Holy Land Shuffle on that one, and a triple album simply titled Now and Then.
A triple album, gosh.
Also, A Mile Until Dawn, released December 2010, 2016, and their 12th album, England, Once My England.
What was the theme there?
Described as reflecting two ex-London lads' views on a once great country. And there's a specific video promo mentioned for a song called Just Like Tin Soldiers from that album, reportedly about British Empire rule in India.
Okay, tackling historical themes there too.
Seems so. Then there's the album Blues Bums. Includes tracks like My Baby's Gone Blues Jam and I Sold My Soul to the Devil.
Classic blues titles.
Right. And there's a specific detail shared about that last one, I Sold My Soul to the Devil. Paul Robert Thomas apparently received a letter from Robert Johnson's grandson about it.
The Robert Johnson's grandson.
That's what the source says, and Thomas apparently expressed great pride in receiving that letter. You can imagine, right? That connection back to the source of the legend for that lyric.
Absolutely, that must have been incredibly meaningful. Any others?
One more album mentioned is It's Burning Love. Features titles like Down, 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 6 Feet Under, Say I Just Stoned Love Till My Day Is Done, and On Charles de Gaulle Street.
Quite the evocative title.
And notably, this song for David Bowie, performed by Paul Odiase, also appears on this album, another nod to their inspirations.
Okay, let's maybe zoom in a bit on the two main figures themselves, based on the details in the sources, starting with the lyricist, Paul Robert Thomas.
Right. His core role, as we've said, is crafting the words. And his personal website, paullyrics.com, which, interestingly, we learned was built by his son, Golan seems to be the central hub for everything.
And there's a welcoming message on the site.
Yeah, something like hoping visitors will arrive as a guest but will leave as a friend. Gives a nice, approachable vibe.
It does. And it also notes that lyric writing remains a hobby for the meantime.
Yes. Which is, frankly, kind of staggering when you consider the sheer volume of work we've just been talking about.
It really is. What about his personal life? The sources mention some unusual things.
They did. It lists things like being medically and religiously circumcised at age 22 to marry his Israeli wife.
Okay.
Receiving a thank you card from Buckingham Palace. And meeting Andy Warhol.
Ah, the Warhol meeting. Didn't the source say that happened during a previous career?
Exactly. It mentioned his previous vocation as a London police officer and more recently as a member of a foreign embassy.
Wow. London police officer, foreign embassy member, and prolific lyricist. That's quite a CV.
Isn't it? What specific details did the source give about meeting Warhol?
It reportedly happened with someone named Jed back in '71. They traveled from the Chelsea Hotel area to Camden.
And what stuck with him?
Andy's smile and warm eyes. He described him as, quote, the kindest star I'd ever met. It's a very specific personal memory.
Definitely adds another layer to the person behind the lyrics. Now, turning to Paul Odiase. The sources mention his birthplace, Islington, London.
And emphasize his musical skill, right? Multi-instrumentalist.
Yes, stating he plays 10 instruments, and he has extensive experience playing in live bands, which must feed into his composing and producing.
Makes sense. He's also done commercial work.
Yeah, jingles, multimedia DVD productions, for companies like Rado Watches of Switzerland and the Swiss Farming Society, so professional production experience there too.
And there was a brief acting stint mentioned in the 70s.
That's right. Worked with Barbara Bach and Mel Ferrer, and apparently Ferrer even approached him about acting school in Milan.
But music was his focus.
The material stresses that, yeah. Music remained the priority. Today, he reportedly concentrates on writing and producing for other musicians, publishers globally, pitching songs for newcomers, TV serials.
And he prefers to mix and master his own tracks.
Yes, the sources note that. Suggests a desire for, complete creative control over that final sound.
Okay, looking at their online presence also tells us something about their approach, doesn't it?
It does. The sources indicate Paul Robert Thomas uses a really wide range of social media platforms for outreach, often posting the same links across many of them.
Which platforms are listed?
Let's see. Twitter, Facebook, including a specific group for Les Pauls and a profile called Paul Lyricist. YouTube, SoundCloud, MySpace.
MySpace. Wow, takes you back.
Right. Apparently, he started a music site there that attracted over 34,000 friends back in the day. Also, Reverb Nation with specific links for different projects, and Vandalism.
That's a serious digital footprint. A conscious effort to get the music out there through every possible channel, it seems.
It really does. And it kind of aligns with the incredibly diverse range of song categories Paul Robert Thomas writes lyrics for, doesn't it? That list in the sources is something else.
It truly is. The sheer breadth of genres is remarkable. What does it include?
Okay, get ready. Rock, pop, children's songs, R&B, reggae, folk, blues, indie, alternative, jazz, blues.
Go.
Oh yeah. Songs of the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, female ballad, male ballad, country Americana, spiritual, dance, funk, club, techno, disco. And then an other category for things like Christmas songs.
Wow. Wow, the range is extraordinary.
And looking at just a few specific titles from that list really drives it home. You've got something like There's an Elephant in the Room under children's songs, right alongside Anne Frank in the songs of the Holocaust and anti-Semitism category. Or a contemporary title like COVID-19, The End of the World, under alternative.
And things like Robert Johnson Crossroads Blues and Blues or Holy Land Shuffle and Reggae.
Exactly. It just shows a lyricist who's willing and, frankly, able to tackle this huge array of themes, tones, musical styles, providing material for all those collaborations across that massive spectrum.
So bringing it back to you, our listener, diving into these sources, it's really opened up this picture of a unique, prolific, creative world, hasn't it? Centered around Paul Robert Thomas's lyrics and that deep partnership with Paul Odiase.
Absolutely. And this information, it gives you so many different threads you could potentially follow up on, depending on what caught your ear.
Right. Maybe it's the specific artists in the Chelsea Hotel series, or digging into some of those genres or the themes in Scared of America or Dylan Found.
Or even just thinking about the dynamics of a long-term cross-continental creative partnership like this works in today's music world.
It's really a compelling example of the depth of work you can uncover just by, looking closely at the material you shared with us.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground, charted quite a bit of their creative territory based on those sources, not just the volume, but the intention, the history behind it all.
So just to wrap things up, we've explored the remarkable scale and diversity of Paul Robert Thomas's work as a lyricist, his core collaboration with Paul Odiase as Les Pauls, and his other creative ventures.
It's been quite the journey through the sources.
It has, and maybe here's a final thought for you to mull over. How do these kinds of long-distance creative partnerships like Thomas and Odiase, leveraging individual strengths, tackling these vast historical and cultural themes, using modern digital platforms alongside traditional songwriting, how do they represent a distinct, maybe even powerful model for making music and telling stories here in the 21st century?